else, or?
We're almost to the point where
It's coming.
it continues to grow.
I know slow too, but
We're gonna have to split it up and just do rookies and intermediates, which would be 4th through 8th grade.
Just gotta get here a little quicker.
Your last day.
There's no
That was
policy.
easy, but
yeah, I was in last week one day too. Put in the bookshop.
We take a look.
I prepped it up. Loaded, little
Wait for
stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
We've only got like 12 in this category. We've got
That's
16
good,
for
yeah.
sure. At least the beaches are.
Yeah.
Now they're all pretty good.
Looks like it's going right.
What's fun about it is all the coaches from Northwest Iowa.
Yep.
And you'll see the kids, when we're not shooting, or if they're not shooting, they'll come over, root for us, and we'll go over and root for them.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Guess we're doing the proposed calendar thing, right? First.
Yes. I'm guessing we could have a bunch of people show up in the next 90 seconds, but my prediction is no one's gonna show up for the change, so we'll open and close it. Jan? What was that? I wasn't the only one that heard that.
It sounds
Well,
like
unless it was-
someone joined.
she was doing something.
Does the door make noise? Tony just went in his office.
okay.
Oh, he probably, okay, that was probably his code to get into the door.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I didn't see this.
There, I got 5:30
Yep.
for you.
Yep.
All right, I got 5:30, so we'll call the first meeting of the public hearing on proposed 2026-27 district calendar change to order.
Is anyone here from the public to comment on the proposed calendar change? If the board members have questions, we'll address it during the meeting. This is received comments on it. I don't think there's anyone here for that reason.
All right, I take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, for moving a second to adjourn the public hearing on proposed 2027 district calendar change. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. We'll go to the regular board meeting. All right, so we got 5:31, so we're gonna start that. All right, so I'll call the Board of Directors at Silvio Cheaton High School's June 15th meeting to order. There be approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as published.
Second.
All right, it's moved in second to approve the agenda as published. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
One second. yeah. Jenny, can you hear us?
Yep, I can.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, come on, we're frozen up here. All right, so I'll go around the room and read the 5 school board basics. Put students first.
Follow the law and your own policy.
Respect the chain of command.
Base shared decisions on shared objective information.
Operate in the public eye.
All right, thank you. We'll go ahead and read our mission statement here at Silvio Cheaton. At Silvio Cheaton Schools, we build partnerships to challenge minds, to invest in community, and to embrace life. So the first item up is visitors.
We didn't have anyone turn any paperwork in.
Okay. Second item, or fourth item here, is approval of the consent agenda.
There's just a few more bills today.
Anything else on the?
I don't have anything to add to it.
Okay.
Gladly answer a question, but I don't have anything
Any
to add.
questions on the?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent items.
Second.
All right, it's moved in second to approve the consent items as listed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Moving down to administration reports. Elementary Principal, Mr. DeZale.
Yeah. So I've attached my end of the year report as we typically present to the board, and so we'll kind of go through that. Hopefully you had an opportunity to take a peek at it as we kind of go through here. So as Superintendent DeZale kind of scrolls through. Good. Yep. So first slide is just enrollment year over year. As you can see, we were down quite a bit from the year before in the elementary building. The most we've been down in the last 6 or 7 years. And so, yeah, just adjusting to that as we kind of make our way forward. Just interesting data. So the next slide is different demographics and subgroups. One that I really thought interesting here in this slide is the one on the far right, the social economic status. That is based on our students who apply for and receive free and reduced lunch. The elementary building is at 61.2%. So a lot of our kids are, and families with students specifically, are going, just coming from that lower space, and the lower financial space, and the research and education says that they then struggle through school just a little bit more. And I think we're seeing some of that specifically with some of our data and reading scores and math scores, but getting an understanding for that and planning for that as we move forward. So our IEP and English learners numbers and percentages remain fairly consistent year over year. Kind of broke it down just in terms of overall numbers for the student subgroups, how many students our counselors saw throughout the year on a regular basis. That does not include the students that will pop in from time to time. That is mainly the ones that are over a period of time, stopping in weekly or every other day or something like that. So then the number of students in EL, number of students in special education or on 504 plans, and then the number of students in our Title I reading program, so that our Title I teachers serve. So next slide is overall attendance totals, up slightly from the previous year. And as we see kind of going through this a little bit later on, a lot of our disciplinary and reactions, we had a lot of disciplinary instances related to the attendance total, and that's because we tried to remain proactive and sent out 5 and 10 day letters, and so I think that had a little bit of an impact there positively on our attendance total. Tried to remain proactive there. So this next slide we're very proud of. 9 total students in the elementary building were at 10% or more absences, which is absences towards the compulsory attendance law. So if some of the attendances are exempt, so those are not included in these numbers. if the student was at the doctor or if had a doctor's note to be sick or some of those kind of things. Those are counted out of these. Those are not included in these attendances, but as you can see, 5 students in that 10 to 15% absent range, which are, they're considered, the state considers them chronically absent. Then just 1 student in that 15 to 20%, and then 3 students in that greater than 20%. Have an understanding for all 3 of those. One we were very acutely aware of and wanted to work with the family for that, and so do anticipate that one getting better for that family specifically. One of them was a late enrollee. The family did not enroll them in school right away, so they missed about the first month and a half of school, and so it was pretty difficult for that student then to catch up, having missed 40 days at the beginning of school from the attendance percentage perspective. And then another one was just hit or miss that we really worked with the family to try and get them here. So we'll keep those moving forward in the right direction, I think. So, and this is kind of what I was referring to earlier. This next slide, there's a lot of our behavior referrals are for the attendance, and I combined our 5-day attendance and 10-day attendance letters into just one attendance category. But otherwise, you can see some of our major disciplinary behaviors were disrespect, disruption, and some physical aggression. So continue to look at those and try and be proactive for those things for next year. And then following that, again, how did we respond to those? A lot. The biggest chunk was, because the biggest chunk of disciplinary referrals were for the attendance, many of our actions then were letters, attendance letters, and some of those kind of things. So a lot of apologies, a lot of time out in detention, ways that we try and work with kids, and as opposed to we're trying to have the consequence mirror and fit the disciplinary action. So that's our goal there. Any questions as we and it's kind of the overall summary there as we kind of jump into academic data.
It's a lot of information.
It is a lot of information, so I'll slow down a little bit here. Yep. So the next one is a summary of our FAST data, so our literacy scores. One highlight I'd like to bring to the board's attention is the overall line down at the bottom, the proficiency scores. In the fall, we were at 54% of our students achieving that proficiency score on literacy, and in the spring, we were at 62%. We jumped up a little bit higher in the winter to 65, but then landed on that 62%. Not where we need to be or where we want to be, but showing some good growth overall. I would like to especially highlight the 3rd grade class. This fall, they started at that 33% of our students proficient in reading, and then that jumped all the way up to just short of 60%. So good work by that team especially, and those kids as well, those students. So our goal continues to be to trying to get to 80%, and so we've got some growing to continue to do, but that's really where we want to be. And so just continue to look at that data and see where we're at from there. So we will be looking at literacy curriculum initially this year and more specifically next year, but kind of starting that process here this upcoming year to kind of see what role that's playing in some of these scores as well. So we really haven't seen the jump like we anticipated in our literacy scores moving to the CKL Amplified curriculum. So,
is this a single day test?
yes,
Given 3 times a year.
3 times a year. Yep. So just definitely a snapshot, you know. Yep. Yep. So we try and set kids up for as much success as possible. Break them into small groups, especially in the elementary building. Put them in comfortable environments, whether that be a classroom teacher or a special education teacher, EL teacher, title teacher, trying to make sure that they are comfortable where they're taking the test. They understand that they have an unlimited amount of time It's not a timed test anymore like it used to be when I was in school, some of those kind of things, so. The next slide was intentionally left blank. We just don't, as we've talked before here at these public meetings, we don't have the proficient, advanced, not yet proficient scores from ISASPs, so I really didn't want to guess. I would say if we look at overall our proficiency cut lines from years past, I would say our numbers would be a little bit higher than what they have been in the past, but it's just really hard to try and project that without those proficiency scores. But I wanted to leave this in here, and so to make sure that it carried over from year to year, so that will get updated.
You mean in a future year they might have it done on time?
They might have it done on time. Yep. Not in June or August. We still have not seen them. I haven't seen anything from there yet either. So still have not seen them. So and then we transition into math. Again, kind of looking at so our iReady diagnostic test is given 3 times a year. The vocabulary there matters, so the FAST test is a screener test. It's kind of like if you went into the doctor's office and they did a quick overview and say, oh, I think your illness is originating in your lungs. We need to do a little bit more specific lung tests. So the FAST test is that initial test to try and figure out, okay, where are they coming from literacy wise. The math test is a little bit different. It dives much more deeply. It would be a test, again, if we make the comparison to going to the doctor's office, they would say, this math test would be able to say, oh, it's originating in your lungs, and it actually is a full diagnosis. And so this math test jumps right in and gives us both our screener score, but also a diagnostic score. So some important vocab to go through there. This is our secondary math testing assessment, or math reporting assessment to the state, and so that's why we give it 3 times a year again. But again, looking at our proficiency scores really going up from 66% at the beginning of the year in the fall to 74% at the end of the year. So super proud of the growth there, and super excited about, okay, now with the alignment between the diagnostic test and now the classroom curriculum we've talked about, to see where these scores go from there as well. So the next slide, I really like this information. I would implore you to take a peek at the numbers in the columns that are of similar colors, okay? So the first 3 columns, the orange numbers are all from the fall diagnostic. The middle 3 columns are all from the winter diagnostic. The last 3 columns are all from the spring diagnostic, so our 3 testing sessions. And then what I did, or what iReady does for us, and what I compiled here for you, is broke that onto on grade level, percent of students that are on grade level, percent of students that are 1 grade level or less behind, or 2 or more grade levels behind. And so just to see the comparison, take for instance the 4th grade, right? If you look way down at the bottom, in the fall we had 35% of our students 2 or more grade levels behind, which makes some sense because they hadn't had any 4th grade instruction yet. As we get to the winter, that dropped from 35% to 13%, and then in the spring there was only 10%, so you're looking at about 2 kids. Nope, that's not right. About 5 students, excuse me. About 5 students in that class of about 50 kids that are 2 or more grade levels behind. And as we look at that, then those are the ones that we look for more intensive interventions. Do they need additional instruction and support? And do they need possibly an IEP? Some of those kind of things. So again, to go from 6% on grade level to over 61% on grade level in the 4th grade class from fall to spring is great growth. And you know, when I was teaching iReady, I always said to kids, it's okay if you're a grade level behind in the fall, because you hadn't, like I said before, you hadn't received any of that grade level instruction. And so the grade level instruction is doing its job. And so is there places where we can continue to grow and make good progress? Yes, but very proud of that growth and the staff's commitment to excellence there as well. And again, the next slide is our ISASP math results. No information in there because we don't have proficiency cut scores or advanced scores. So, questions there academically? Okay. The next slide is data for our staff absences. In looking at the numbers, I was surprised because our absences were actually up this year. As we went through the year, I felt like I wasn't contacting as many subs as I had done previously. I think the reason that they were up is we had 2 long-term maternity leaves, and so we welcomed 2 additional generals to our families, and we're excited about that. And so that's kind of a one-time thing, finding a sub, and then they're in the room for that long-term subbing position. And so, yeah, just really pleased with the dedication of our staff and how they get there and show up to work and are incredibly professional. I was a little bit surprised about the unpaid leave, but a lot of that again ties to sicknesses and some of those kind of things that we worked through for this year. So
Is that part of the maternity leave too, then, the unpaid ones?
some of it is. And so the key didn't show up. The blue bars are the certified staff, so our teaching staff. And then the red bars are the classified staff, so our paraprofessionals and support staff. So, yep, a little bit of maternity leave in there. Had some who needed to deal with sick family members throughout the year and just kind of didn't have enough sick days and some of that kind of stuff. So, next slide is percentages, overall numbers, rates. 15 out of 28 met the board stated goal of 95% attendance on student contact days. I was a little surprised that wasn't a little bit higher, like I said, but 95% is a very ambitious goal, and we will continue to strive to meet that. As I've said to staff members, is we want to hire good people, let good people do their job, and when they do their job, we need them to be here to do that job. So, yeah, congratulations to those 15. Professional development, staff attendance is just short of 94% for the elementary building. That was outstanding. Had 6 of them that were present for every single PD day, and then 17 of the 28 that were there for all of them except for 1. Some successes. I know I highlighted this last year as well, number 1, but we continued to make time in our schedule for team planning and collaboration. Feel like that's a very beneficial and important thing as staff members continue to work together and work in collaboration with each other, and so that will continue moving forward. Highlighting the selection of the math curriculum that we're excited for implementation for next year. Had a great professional development day at the end of the year where it was very well attended, and a lot of good conversations about how we can kick that off successfully. We successfully introduced 5 new staff members in the elementary building, and so felt like they assimilated very well and did a good job and hit the ground running. Kind of easy to lose sight of a little bit, but just 10 months ago we were in the middle of getting started with our construction project, especially over at the elementary school, and so starting the year in an unfamiliar space and transitioning to what is now currently our main office and the secure entrances at the elementary school was a big undertaking, and we did that successfully, I would like to say. So like I mentioned before in the attendance, only 9 students at or above the 10% absence rate. So kudos to our families and to our kiddos for getting there, and to our staff for making that a place where kids want to come learn. We did some different things with our Tier 2 math interventions, an initial implementation of that. Similar to our Title I reading, we now kind of have a Tier 2 process for our math intervention, so looking proud of the way that started and looking to continue to build off of that as we continue to move forward. And then, as I emphasized as we were going through the charts, just that great academic growth. Not where we want to be or where we need to be yet, but lots of that academic growth. And that's something that we continue to focus on and talk about in number one with our common team planning time. And how can we continue to support each other? What can we continue to look forward to? And oops, excuse me, sorry, my dates are wrong there. It should be 26, 27. But continue to putting data first and using it, and how can we continually use it at all three levels. Tier 1 applies to all kids. Tier 2 are those kids that are struggling just a little bit and need a few more interventions. And then our Tier 3 are the ones that need some specially designed instruction and even further interventions and supports. Continue to improve our attendance. Like I said, I was very proud of that, but it is something as we get to that Tier 1 level, how can we continue to make Sibylla Cheatham Elementary a place where kids feel loved, feel safe, and want to be there and want to learn every day. Kind of in that decreasing some of the disruption, some of the disrespect of the behaviors that we saw. Like I talked about from the successes, but just continuing to revamp our math interventions and implementation. Revamping our math interventions and what that looks like for those Tier 2 kiddos, those ones that need just a little bit more support other than the class-wide instruction, but then also implementing our new classroom curriculum. Our PD for 26-27 will be a major focus. I believe Mr. Hertz talked a little bit about that as well, but that curriculum development as we move forward here, making sure that we have standards and objectives in place. Sometimes we call it our hit by the bus plan. If Mr. DeZale was teaching math and gets hit by a bus, can we make sure that math class could continue forward in spite of his inability to do so, or hers, or whomever the case may be, that leaders. So, and then we will always put students first and meet the needs of all of our students. So there were lots of needs, and there continues to be lots of needs, but super proud of the staff for meeting those needs and continuing to strive for what's best for our kids.
Thanks for that information, Mr. DeZale. Do you guys got any questions for him?
Do you think the test scores reflect like the actual grades?
The classroom grades, you mean?
Yes. I mean, is it just curious? Like,
Yes and no. We've not done that parallel kind of data research. You know what I mean? I would say our classroom grades probably are a little bit higher because our teachers really make sure that students understand the assignment, understand it and complete the assignment with fidelity, and they're gonna invest that time into the kids, and because they have that time in the kids. Whereas, like you had mentioned, with the 1 day snapshot, sometimes we can't help the kids with the tests. You know what I mean? As like we can with the curriculum and some of those kind of things. And so, I would say our classroom grades probably look a little bit better than that because of the amount of time and care that we can put into those. But for the most part, I would say, yep, this is what we're seeing. You know what I mean? Struggling to, and I kind of go back to that demographic pie chart that I showed when we have 60-some% of our students who may not know where their next meal is coming from, or may not be able to get groceries for their meal, or kids are, probably not in our elementary building, but if some of the kids have to go out and work and some of those kind of things to be able to care for the family, or they have siblings caring for them while parents get a second job. It's tough and it's challenging. So our educational saying is Maslow before Bloom, right? So Maslow's hierarchy of needs is you need to be cared for before you can actually learn. So housing, sleep, nutrition, some of those kind of things, those needs. And so with that 61% being so high, those needs, we're taking care of those needs before we're actually able to teach, to educate.
So is that higher than years past?
Yes, it is. Yeah, without a doubt. I was thinking we were closer to 55%. You know what I mean? So that extra 5% relates to about 2 or 3 kids. You know what I mean? And so,
You might see that number looking different in different areas.
Diff-
So like when we have to report to the state,
Okay.
you might see a number next year that doesn't look like that. That does not mean that that's not accurate, but what they report each year, we have a month that they pick from and what was reported on that month, and you get what I'm saying? So
Depends on where
our
it's
poll
at.
month might be September
it's the
or
snapshot
October.
thing again.
Correct.
Yep.
And
So,
depending on what grade levels you're looking at too, it
Correct.
fluctuates.
yeah, it's different between different buildings for us right now.
Yep, yep.
So,
To the grade point, the screeners and the diagnostics, there's some adjustments made for like special ed and ESL students, but not near what the classroom work is modified and accommodated. So you have about 10 to 20%, depending on the grade level, of kids that are either in special ed or English language learners. So that also, they may get a better grade in the class because they're getting additional support, but they may not get that support on the diagnostics, so you're going to see gaps there too.
Gotcha.
thanks. Good
Yep,
point.
Yep. I'll talk about that a little bit in my report too.
Thank you, Mr. Oh,
Yeah, a
sorry.
very productive year. Again, very proud of the growth. Not where we need to be, but very proud of the growth.
Very
All right,
good.
well, thank you. All right, moving on to secondary principal, Mr. DeZeo.
Mr. Herbst.
Sorry,
No,
Mr.
you're
Herbst.
fine. You're fine. Yeah, lots of positives that I'll point out here, and then just some specific data I'll highlight. There's a ton of information in these reports, so I encourage you to ask questions. And I mentioned this the last couple of years too, but if there's data that we're not presenting that you're interested in seeing, that's something to let us know, and then we can, try to incorporate that into future reports or bring that to a board meeting. There's just a lot that we could pull in here, so we try to, in 25 slides, here's what the year looked like and cover all of our bases as best we can. So that first slide is enrollment, and we are down. This is 512 enrollment, so 364 students. And depending on when you pull that data, it fluctuated a little bit, but yep, we know we were down this year as a district, and we felt that in the middle school and high school. We skew a little more male, especially this senior class. So that might, that pendulum might swing back a little bit in the next few years, but just a little bit more male students to female students. This demographic data, Mr. Zao showed the same. That's pulled from our school performance profile. So that's anybody can go on school performance profile, look up our district, look up by building. That demographic data is available along with a bunch of other data. It is like a year back. So it's not our demographics right now. It's a snapshot of them from a year ago. But it's kind of the cleanest place to pull all that data from. So that's where we get it from. So, year to year it does fluctuate a little bit, but it gives us a good idea of kind of where we're at. So, yep, free and reduced and low socioeconomic percentage, we're right at that 50%. So not quite the 60-some percent that the elementary was, but definitely does impact our students' lives. And like Mr. Zao said, at the high school, we definitely do see a lot of students working, and every year it seems like more and more kids are looking to do that, which then can impact extracurricular involvement and just overall performance at school. Sometimes it can be a positive, give kids life experience, give kids disposable income, responsibility, all those things, but kids don't have infinite time. They got to choose what they want to spend that time doing. So something I do want to point out, middle school and high school wise, numbers are pretty similar. About 10% of our students are classified as English language learners, and about 15% are identified as having a learning disability, having an individual education plan. So when you look at our data, when you see a score in that 70 to 80% proficient, I think that's that's a really good score considering, about 10% of our kids may not speak English or have English spoken at home, which obviously puts them at a disadvantage. And then about another 15% might have a learning disability in reading or math or maybe behavior that's also going to impact their learning. So I do think as a district, we score very well considering some of our demographic hurdles that we're facing. So I think just a credit to our staff.
Can I add, sorry.
Go ahead.
Can I add one thing about the free and reduced?
Yep.
If you look, it's not, the data shows a higher percentage at the elementary. This has been brought up at superintendent's meetings, and these guys probably don't know this, but then a less percentage at the middle school and then a little lower at the high school. It's not, generally speaking, stats don't show that as they get older, the demographics improve. The main reason for that is as they get older and more independent, people are less likely to fill out paperwork and ask for assistance. That's just, generally speaking, young families with kids at home have, are more likely to fill out paperwork for social assistance programs, including free and reduced lunch, and it's less likely to happen when they're older. So that doesn't mean that by high school we have less kids that are free and reduced, but we have probably less, not as many are taking advantage of it.
For sure. Yep, I would agree with that. And high school kids much more likely to bring a pop from home and a bag of chips and call that their lunch, where most elementary families probably wouldn't send their kid to school with that. So just as they get older and more independent, it's a little harder to get them to.
So I would say at all
healthy
three
foods.
buildings, our rate might be closer to what the elementary's is
Yeah.
in reality.
Yep.
Or
I would
higher.
agree with that. So the next slide was high school demographics, and very similar, about 10% ESL, a little bit lower percentage of students with disabilities, and that just kind of fluctuates depending on the grade level and how many students in those grades qualify for those services. Subgroup data, 5 through 12, we had 43 students receiving special education services, 31 receiving ESL, English as a Second Language services, and then 15 students on 504s. So it kind of gives you an idea throughout all those grades. That's the totals for each of those subgroups. Attendance for high school this year down, the lowest it's been for quite a few years. So that's 93.86%. So all of our attendance for all high school students averaged out was 93.86. Why is that down? Definitely a tougher illness through January and February than it's been in the last couple years. We had to report to the state a handful of days. I know the elementary did too. Yeah. But I also think some of that is actually maybe a good sign, athletic success. So we had quite a few kids. So if you're absent in this number, even if you're absent at state track or at something else, you're still absent. So I think some of that is impacting. We had quite a bit of success athletically, but also in fine arts and some other programs. So, I had quite a few students go on a NASA trip. That's several days that they missed. So I think overall, it's not a great number. We'd like to see it above 95%, but I'm not concerned that it's 93, and don't anticipate it being at 93 or lower in the future. So, for instance, that last day of school, we had about 70 students in the high school that last day because we had a huge number go down to state track, which is great, went down to support their friends and family. We had quite a few students participating, but then that does impact those attendance numbers overall. So. Middle school had a really good attendance year, kind of right in line with where they've been and where we want them to see above 95%. And overall, some really good trends for middle school that I'll just point out now. Academically, overall showed a lot of growth in the middle school. Their attendance was very good in the middle school as well. So I think I'll call those things out here as we go, but they had a really good year. Our chronic absentee numbers for 5 through 12, we had 21 students who were 10% or more, so that 10% to just below 15%. We had 21 students. 5 students were at that 15% truancy rate, and then we had 2 that were 20% or more. not where we want it to be, but trending in a good direction. So over 20%, we had 5 last year, and we're down to 2 this year. I think some of that was our interventions and our attendance meetings. And then at that 15%, we had 7 in that column last year, we're down to 5. And overall, this 10% was right at 20, so we didn't see a jump there. So overall, it's heading in the right direction, but yep, we would like to see 0 students at 20%, ideally 0 students at 15%, and a lower number at 10%. But compared to the state averages, we're doing much better than the average school in Iowa. So the middle school's attendance data was phenomenal. 0 students at 20%, 0 students at 15%, and maybe just a handful at 10%. So they had very, very good attendance this year. Switching over to behavior referrals. So that's our behaviors broken down by percentage. The vast majority of behavior issues that we deal with at the high school are attendance related. So tardies, 5-day absence letters, skipping class, 10-day absence letters are our biggest percentage-wise and volume-wise. Those are the biggest things that we deal with. Behaviors-wise, the next big things are cell phone and removals from class, and just defiance, disrespect would be the next big things. But those combined maybe make up about 10% of our referrals right now. So to summarize, our kids in the high school have a lot of freedom, and they do a really good job with it. They are where they're supposed to be. They follow the rules. They're respectful to their teachers and their classmates. And overall, we have pretty minimal behavior issues. And then the next slide is the actions we take. So with it being mostly attendance related, it's a lot of time for detention. So if they skip a class, they're maybe serving that equivalent amount of time in detention. Sending home letters, which the state requires us to do. So that's our 5-day and our 10-day letter. In-school suspension is another common consequence for skipping class or having a significant number of tardies. And then conference with student is a typical first intervention when we have other behavior issues. So cell phones, or maybe first removal, or defiance, disrespect, issues with a classmate. Conference with a student is a pretty typical first consequence for that. So middle school had more behavior issues and more of kind of what you would see typically in a middle school, just disruptive, defiance, maybe inappropriate language. Those are some of those top few. And 5-day absence letters were, the second highest, behavior referral that was put out. So overall, definitely, and Julie can attest to this, dealing with more behavior issues in the middle school. My experience working as a middle school principal, I think that's every middle school. Kids are just figuring out where the line is, and as middle school students, they like to push those boundaries, and that's really part of the learning that's supposed to happen. They push a boundary with a teacher, with a classmate, with whoever, they're disrespectful, there's reteaching, there's consequences. They're middle school kids, so they're probably gonna do it again, and then the consequences escalate each time that behavior occurs until the behavior is corrected. So that means that you're gonna have lots of disruptions, or defiance, or whatever it might be. So are what I would say really concerning behaviors like fighting, drug, tobacco use, physical aggression, those kinds of things are very low. They make up a very small portion of what we deal with day to day. So that's a good thing. And then actions taken kind of reflect that. So again, conferences with students when they make a mistake, a lot of reteaching, going over expectations. Yep, typically some detention, removal from class, in-school suspension is served with that. Parent contact is another big piece of that. Overall, I think that's something administratively and teaching staff-wise, we can grow that part of the pie chart. I'd like to see more parent contacts, and that's something that we'll push this next school year, more parent contacts when we have behavior issues. So that was kind of attendance and behavior data. Questions so far about any of that before we jump into the academic stuff?
The system we put in place for kids where they're supposed to be, and did that help with? the tardies and the absence?
Yeah, good question. So Minga is the name of that system. I would say, I think it helped with some things. So we definitely had less congregating at the high school, kids all asking to get out of a room at the same time to go meet somewhere. We had less of that. I don't know that it helped drop like our tardies. So kids were still maybe coming late to class because they could just go to their locker, go to the bathroom, be 2-3 minutes late for class, take the tardy,
And not have
versus
to
I'm
do
going
it.
to go to class on time and ask for a pass. So I don't think it improved our like tardies, our tardy data. It maybe helped with some of the other behaviors. So yeah, and just a semester into it, so I'm hoping we can take a look at that data overall from Minga and see kind of what are our trends. We definitely have some frequent abusers of the system who are, requesting 20 passes a day that we've addressed with those students, and then that got better. So, yeah, I think it's when the data is used to kind of target kids that need to correct that behavior, I think that's helped. The nice piece is it's all kept in one spot. So, a teacher might feel like, hey, I'm giving this kid a pass maybe once a day or every other day, but if they're asking 8 separate teachers, that's 8 passes plus a day, and that teacher might not be aware of all the other trips that student's asking for. So this helps collect that data in one spot. So, yeah, good question. Other attendance behavior data?
Nope.
All right, so academic data, start with the FAST diagnostic. Overall, middle school performed really well. We saw really good growth. We do just give this to 5th through 8th grade. It's not given in the high school. So you won't see any of the FAST or iReady data for high school students. Similar to what Kent shared, in the fall, these are percent proficient. I should point that out, and the number of students taking it. So, 5th grade in the fall is 73%. We would like to see through the winter and spring that percentage go up. And for the most part, that is what we see. One outlier here in the 5th grade, this 100% proficiency in the winter. I'm not sure if that's legit. We did kind of at the tail end of the year have to retest because some students were using AI through these assessments. So maybe it's a legit 100%, but the fact that they went from a 73 to 100 and then back to a 74 makes me question that a little bit. Hard to know for sure, but we did retest in the spring and feel like the data made a little more sense then. So, yeah. So overall, seeing some growth throughout the FAST testing for 8th grade. And then I included some panorama data just comparing the middle school as a whole across the state. So overall, in auto reading, in A reading, those are the 2 FastBridge tests that we give, we are scoring higher as a middle school compared to the state. So that's always a good thing you want to see, and we are seeing that. I included the iReady data in there. We'll get to that later, but same is true there for our math diagnostic. We're at a 73%. The state average is a 67%. ISASS data, I went a little bit different route than Mr. Zayo. So I put a little note here at the bottom. Proficiency is based off the 24-25 cut scores because we do not have the new cut scores available. So basically what I did is said, if this score was proficient last year, I'm going to call it proficient this year, even though we don't know if it is or not, just to kind of give us an idea where we're at ballpark-wise. The average growth would be the average points of growth for that grade level. So anything double digits, we consider pretty good growth. So throughout the middle school, you have the 6th grade had a 33-point average growth, in the 7th grade a 44, in the 8th grade a 47. So those are all really big growth averages. So when I look at the proficiency, kind of where we're at, to me it makes sense. We saw big point growth, so I'm assuming our proficiency is going to be similar to this, but we won't know for sure until those new cut scores come out. So,
Do you know what the typical yearly growth for the standard score is?
It varies grade to grade. I did look at that, and when I saw it wasn't, a consistent 10 points,
Right.
then I
Didn't put it in there.
I didn't bother to include that.
Yeah.
But yeah, what Mr. Zayo's getting at is for 5th grade, let's say, a year-to-year growth, you'd want to see a 15-point jump. So if you were proficient in 4th grade, to be proficient again in 5th grade, you'd have to jump 15 points. It does vary grade level to grade level. So some it was, single digits, 8, 9 points. Some it was double digits, 15, 18 points. So it just kind of depends the grade level. It seems like 5th grade and 9th grade are bigger jumps, and I don't know why that is, but that's what I saw when I looked into that a little bit. So.
Typical is 8 to 14
Yep.
ish in that
Yep.
range.
Yep.
Typical growth.
Yep, and those
So-
scores on that back slide, that average growth is average. So some students grew 80 points. And a few students did go backwards. We had maybe a minus 15 points or a minus 10 points, but the average of the whole grade to see them that high, that's a really good sign. So overall, very happy with the middle school scores, and also happy with the high school. And I said, anytime you have double-digit point growth year to year, I think that's a great sign. So happy with the scores overall. So that was literacy. Now moving into math, again, middle school does the iReady diagnostic, high school does not. From fall to spring, you want to see those percentages go up. For the most part, they do. 7th grade slipped a little bit, and that's a bit of a trend. They also slipped a little bit in literacy as well. But overall, happy with where we're at proficiency-wise, still above the state average. But Mr. Zayo pointed this out, what we're shooting for is 80% or more. So some grades are getting to that point, 5th grade as an example. Others, have a ways to go, 8th grade as an example. And then ISASP for math, again, super encouraging ISASP scores, a lot of double-digit growth across the board. Again, the proficiency percentage and number of students not proficient, that's based off of last year's cut scores. I don't know if that's going to be our final numbers. It depends on where the cut scores land. But overall, happy with how we performed. And then science for ISAPS is a little tricky in that they only take it 5th grade, 8th grade, 10th grade, so you can't do like year-to-year growth very easily because they don't take it every year. But overall, our science proficiency, again, was very high, and that's been a trend at SO for many years, so I was glad to see that continue. Data I started keeping last year and included in my report was maybe I should pause. Any questions about the academic data? Math, science, and literacy?
Could we get the ISAP results when they come in?
Like as a board, could you
Yeah.
see, like you're kind of hoping for like the actual proficiency, not proficient?
Well, just what you have here, but for this year, when it comes in.
Yeah, so the average growth wouldn't change. The only thing that would potentially change is the number of students not proficient to proficient.
Yep.
Yeah, I think once we get that, it'd be easy to update that chart and just put in those new numbers.
A monthly report or something.
Yep. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yep. That's definitely something we can include.
Yep.
I think you've done that in the past, I believe, right?
I think so.
I kind of
Yeah.
remember that, or them not being available, then they
Doing
were
it later.
available.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we do, when the final reports come out, each student gets like a customized report of all their scores, and we do mail those home. 5-12 we do, I think
We do
elementary
3rd and
does.
4th. Yep.
So. All right, so back to extracurricular participation. Started tracking this, just being involved as a student and then seeing that impact as a coach, teacher, and now as an administrator. I think the data's clear. When kids are involved in school activities, they do better overall. They're happier, they're more active, they're healthier, they perform better academically, they report that they enjoy school more. Just overall, things go better. So we want to see a high participation rate. So what I do is I pull our JMC report, and if a student participated in at least one thing, so it could be a sport, could be fine arts, could be a a CTSO like FFA or Art Club, if they participate in something, they're marked as a participant. So looking at that data, percent participation, that's what you see in that column. So 88% of our 12th graders participated in something. Really good participation in our sophomore class, 96%. So just a couple students that are choosing not to be involved in anything. And then middle school, I'm encouraged at those high numbers, 98 and 95. Usually we do see a little bit of a drop going into freshman year. I think kids just sometimes have concerns that they're going to be able to manage everything. They might also be starting a job potentially. So, hopefully we keep that 98% going into next year with that 8th grade group. But really encouraged with our overall participation. So out of 267 students, 244 do something at SO, which is great. We'd like to see it 100%, but 91's pretty good. And overall, just tracking it the last few years, we're at that 89%. Would like to see above 90. In previous years we've been there. It just kind of depends grade to grade, but yeah, happy with our participation. And staff attendance wise, that's just a breakdown of student contact days by month. Definitely November through February we had a few maternity leaves and also sickness, especially February was hit pretty hard, so that doesn't surprise me that those are in the low 90s, upper 80s. Then overall, staff attendance for student contact days is 92%, which is good. We're shooting for 95. I think 92 is a little bit up from previous years. 17 out of our 33 512 staff met that 95% attendance. Special shout out to Ryan Wiersma and Rebecca Fink. They both had perfect attendance, so they did not miss a day of school. That's not including, missing for a school-related thing like a field trip or a sporting event. But yep, so perfect attendance for those two staff members. Our staff professional development goal of 100%, we had 9 staff members hit that. We had 15 out of 33 miss 1 or no days of professional development. So, questions about participation, staff attendance? And successes, happy with our implementation of the 5th through 7th grade career exploration for DCAP. That was a new requirement. Big thank you to Katie Calling for leading that. I thought kids got great experience there, get to explore some new careers. 5-8 intervention implementation, made a lot of great growth there. Just systems-wise, what kind of interventions we're using, how we're identifying kids, when we're implementing those interventions, just got a lot of those things smoothed out and felt our students benefited from that. A lot of fun things, prom, winter formal, student fun nights at the middle school. Mrs. Schuler did several mini pep rallies for the middle school to celebrate different successes there. So just lots of fun activities, memorable things for students. To Mr. DeZato's point, I think we have a school where kids want to be here, and that's a big part of it. Kids look forward to those events, and I think staff do too. They're fun to put on. A lot of record-breaking athletic, fine arts, and academic performances this year, just kind of across the board, middle school and high school. We applied for a STEM Best grant, and we did end up spending all that money. It was about $50,000, so just grateful for the different technology and things that we have access to now through that grant. We had a record number of students taking college classes and participating in school to career. Some of that is this senior class was a very high achieving class, wanted college classes, wanted work experience. So yeah, we just had a lot of participation from that group. Middle school wise, 113 middle school students earned the honor roll at least one quarter, and 15 middle school students earned a GPA of 4.0. So congratulations to those students. And then looking forward into 2026, want to continue to work on attendance, participation in extracurriculars, and academic performance. Those are always things we want to improve. Continuing to develop our success program at the high school and middle school, how we can better support students through that. We'll have a speaker again during homecoming week, Caleb Morgan. He'll be coming in and speaking to our students about having a growth mindset. Excited about him. Continue to grow our school to career offerings. So we want to, when kids come in with unique things, we want to do our best to give them that opportunity. One, it gives us a new relationship so we can go back to them later if we have kids in the future interested in those school to career, but also just for that kid in that moment, if that's what they really want to do, we want to try to make that happen for them. So, curriculum development, that's going to be a major focus for professional development. So looking forward to our new staff especially being able to get their feet underneath them a little bit better, make sure they're hitting what they need to standard-wise, make sure that their instruction, is robust and engaging, and continuing to move SO forward. And then personally, just more classroom visibility. I was on a cart this year a decent amount, would like to be on a cart more, getting into classrooms more often, so that's kind of a personal goal. And then again, just kind of across the building, myself, teachers, more parent communication, and better conference attendance is another thing we want to improve on. So that's it. A lot of information.
Questions for Mr. Hertz?
Lot to put together. Thanks.
Yep. It's fun. It's kind of fun to go
It is
back through
kinda
the data
fun.
and see
Where
how we
you're
did.
at.
Yep,
Reflect on it and tie it all together.
yep, for sure.
How many kids participate in that school to career?
So this year we had 30. It depends on what semester, but I think 30 total students either did fall, spring, or both. It's only available to seniors.
Yeah.
So we had 51 graduate, so 60% of our senior class did some type of school to career. And if you threw CAPS in with that, because CAPS also does similar, they call them internships, but similar program, that's maybe a couple more seniors that did CAPS rather than school to career because they overlap. So, yeah, really happy with the opportunities our students are getting through that program. So.
All right, well, thanks, Casey.
Yep.
All right, moving on to superintendent report, Mr. DeZale.
A lot of the stuff that I've worked on will come up later in the board meeting or things that we're going to talk and improve on, so I'm not going to rehash everything and keep it moving. A lot of it has dealt with this time of year working with insurance and projections for the coming years, we'll say that. And when I was putting the report together, I wasn't sure about Chromebook quotes, but they came through at the end of the week, so we'll discuss that on a later agenda item as well. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Board committees, policy, finance, and facilities.
None specifically met. Something was set out electronically that we approved in the consent agenda item for some stuff from ISB, but other than that, we didn't have any meetings.
Okay. Recognition of excellence.
So being summer, we're kind of in a turnover with our student leadership group. So we'll have in our probably September meeting, our first student representative from the class of 27 senior class. So I'll read recognition of excellence. 2026 state golf participant, Becca Wolber. 2026 state track and field participants, at shot put, Gage Greenfield, girls shuttle hurdle, Grace Seiler, Haley Gakey, Maya Poland, and Lily Marco. Girls 4x800, Riley Childs, Saida Ochoa, Lucy Heitrider, and Aaliyah Marco. Boys 4x800, Carter Voss, Eric Klein-Waltrink, Dawson Krakis, Ben Byers. 100-meter dash, Dominic Marco. Distance medley relay, Luke Heilman, Tate Marco, Levi Seiler, Carter Voss. 400-meter hurdles, Tate Marco, Maya Poland, and Haley Gakey. High jump, Eric Klein-Walterink. Boys 4x200, Tate Marco, Dawson Krakis, Ben Byers, Dominic Marco. Boys 4x400, Dawson Krakis, Carter Voss, Ben Byers, Tate Marco. Boys sprint medley relay, Luke Heilman, Dominic Marco, Tate Marco, Ben Byers. 110 hurdles, Luke Heilman, and 1500 meter, Aaliyah Marco. The May Generals of the Week for elementary, Leland Peterson. Middle school, Yair Lopez Juan. High school, Isabel Berry. Staff, Katie Schroeder. For the 8th of May, elementary, Jet Marco. Middle school, Adeline Lansink. High school, Natalie Ironshell Rankin. And staff, Shannon Schaefer. And the 15th, Evelyn Melendez Lorenzo. Middle school, Addison Pomranke. High school, Kara Schaefer. And staff, Amy Renner. And then congratulations to our graduating class of 2026.
All right, thank you. All right, discussion items, the 2-minute board policy and finance moment.
With all the stuff that's passed this spring, I thought you'd give a quick update on one of the things that might affect school funding here is the SAVE fund. Do you know or recall, or can you remember what SAVE stands for?
No, that's the top of my head.
So it's securing an advanced vision, and then I don't remember, it's for in education, but it's the statewide penny sales tax, right? Okay. So with Senate File 2472, and so I got the description, I got this from Gemini and Google just to summarize this because I didn't want this to go super long. So I got this is not my summary anyway, I had them summarize the legislation, but under the previous law portion of SAVE, so that's that pennywide sales tax that we get, sometimes we talk about SAVE and some of the uses of it are similar to PEPAL, but was gradually dedicated to property tax relief through a slow equity transfer. So increased the amount of SAVE money going to property tax relief, I think through the year 2051. Well, Senate File 2472 scrapped that formula and accelerated that timeline. And I'm not saying that was good or bad, I'm just making a statement here, right? So over a 5-year phase-in period, starting in this next fiscal year, the bill diverts a higher percentage going to property tax relief from those SAVE revenues. And so 25% of the SAVE funds in the state will go to property tax relief by the year 2031. I'm pointing that out is because without continued growth SAVE-wise, that could end up having actually less dollars per student for students statewide. This isn't just Sibley Ocheyedan, this is statewide, right? They're assuming some growth, but there are mechanisms in there when you don't have enough growth in revenue from statewide sales tax revenue from one year to the next, where you could actually have less dollars per student. So what does that mean for us next year? We'll be okay with less distribution. We don't know for years after that until I think we get a year or two into this. I know we've talked about this, but just based on the estimates now next year as a result of this legislation, by the time we pay our 2 revenue bonds and our bus lease, that's probably going to expend almost every SAVE dollar we have next year, as an example. So will it have some impacts in the future? Yes. Do we know what that looks like? We don't. But something just to be aware of. And that's really all I have with that.
Okay, moving on to consider approval of affirmative action plan.
So I put this on here. This has to, we're not approving anything. This has to be approved every other year. I got this hint from another superintendent. They said put that as a discussion item to make your board aware. A year from now, this could look dramatically different just because of legislation and things like that. There's nothing to change in the plan. We approved this last year. It's good till next year, and it serves as a good placeholder as a reminder for that. With some of the recent legislation that's happened in the past year, it'll be interesting a year from now what we actually have to put in that plan, but that is something that we are up to date on and just to be aware of. We approved it last summer. We'll see what that looks like a year from now. That's all I have to add to that.
Alrighty. Moving on to new business. Consider approval of new contracts.
So Jada Marco as a second-year mentor, just because of the change in placement of a second-year teacher that fit better into that contract. And then Elsa Weiss to be the musical pit director. If you looked in resignations, they had talked, and she would like to do that next year in place of Kelly Jacobsma, and he's good with that. So we're just approving those changes, and that's the only contracts.
Make a motion to approve the new contracts.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the new contracts as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of 2026-2027 district calendar change.
So this does not change the start date, the end date of the school year. It doesn't change the days that we go to school or dismiss. I tried to bullet wise this year. No one is here for the public comment, but I tried to sum it. The main reason of this is to react to legislation. And basically, according to Senate File 2201, instead of having one count date for certified enrollment, starting this next fiscal year, it's the next fiscal year, but the count dates on this next calendar school year, they'll have 2 count dates, and then your certified enrollment, which affects your budget, is the average of the 2. Okay, so how does this affect our calendar? Well, one of the ways affects us, especially small schools. What do we typically have with seniors that we approve in the fall, mid-year?
Early graduation.
Yes, early graduation. So if their last day is in December, they automatically won't be counted in January. And for a school like us, if we're looking at potentially 7 or 8 students next year, 8,000 a pop, right? And the average is half of that. That's over 30 grand right there. So we're not the only school doing this. Some waited till later in the spring and approved a calendar with this modified, but that is the reason. If someone asks, I would say the reason we're doing this is to hopefully financially keep our district in a little bit better place and try and keep that average higher between the 2 certified count dates. The reality where it'll mainly affect, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, it'll have minimal impact to elementary, as I've talked to Ken about this, or Mr. Zay about this. It's not going to affect a lot. It'll have minimal impact in the middle school. It'll probably have the biggest impact at the high school. And not that it'll be huge, but just having the semester extend till after Christmas now. And mainly probably for those people that are graduating mid-year or semester classes, just that they're finishing up after Christmas. So do I think this is, compared to the calendar before, do I think this is one of those that is the best educational choice? No, but it's the position we're put in. And that is the
What would
reason I
happen if we
recommend-
didn't allow early graduation?
What's that?
Well, what would happen if we didn't allow early graduation?
We have to have early grad as a
We have
policy.
to.
Yep, we do. And in the past, it didn't matter. I mean, you get the funding for the kids regardless, right? Because they were counted, but now with the second count date and them not being has an impact. So this would allow those that early graduate, it won't put us behind because of that.
Another benefit of going to the 15th of January, our fall semester is always shorter by about 10 days. So now going to the 15th actually balances those out, like number of day wise. So yeah, there are some cons, but that is, if you're a semester class, it's a big difference between having a fall versus a spring. Now that difference is gone. So there are some positives too.
Any other questions you guys have? Total hours over the course of the year is exactly the same. Just shifts some days and hours from first to second semester, or vice versa, from second to first semester, excuse me. So,
Make a motion to approve the 26-27 district calendar as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the 2026-27 district calendar changes as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
next is the student handbook changes. Most of them are summarized. As typical, there's not a ton of changes unless they're grammatical or something like that in the early childhood or the elementary one. There's a few in the yellow. There's probably a few more done at the high school, and Mr. Hertz summarized them. don't know if you guys had a chance to look or you have any specific questions on anything with any of those changes. If you guys had anything to add, I don't really.
I guess one thing I'd like to point out, I've mentioned this a couple times, our graduation requirement has been for a long time 46 credits. For the class of 2029, I'm proposing that we increase that to 48 credits. The reason kids won't have to enroll in additional classes, it really won't impact. We're just awarding credits for success now, a quarter credit each year, which or each semester, it's 2 credits over the course of 4 years. That's why we're changing that. So if we didn't increase the amount, technically a student could take 2 less electives then, and we don't want that to happen. So overall, yep, it's going from 46 to 48, but the change is just because we're awarding credit for success now, that gets them to 48.
And the class of 2029, to clarify, was this past year's freshman class, right?
Yep, so they're the
To be
first.
sophomores.
Yep.
That would have it all 4 years.
Yep.
Yep.
Make a motion to approve the handbooks for the upcoming year as presented.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved in second to approve the 2026-27 student handbooks as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Consider approval of purchase middle school student Chromebooks.
So the rotation is this year for us to replace the middle school Chromebooks, and that's needed. And I put in the notes here, just tentatively what, if we would stick with the rotation, that'll be discussed during this year or next year. I don't know that we'll need to replace the staff computers next year. That's why tentatively, just as an FYI. But going to the recommendation for the middle school Chromebooks, I'm not going to read everything. Mr. Beaver's put a lot of work into this, and it can go through the different quotes he has and the pluses and the minuses of all of that. But basically at the end, he gives his recommendation, and the reason why is the Trafera Lenovo 500E Generation 4 2-in-1 for a total of $112,000, $112,860. And he's talked about the Intel processor that meets our architecture and the preference for what we need, the display compared to some of the other models that fit our needs, the 2-in-1 form factor that he talked about, that there's no additional cost, the type of cases that come with this, and the comprehensive white glove deployment services. And then he talked about the options that were the most viable for us. There were cheaper options, but the reason they were cheaper on some of the other quotes, they didn't include things that he felt we needed. That's the summary there. And so of the 2 best options, this was the lower of the 2, $112,860. And where he's getting it from is that quote up above, and you can kind of see there's one for 108, 106. But some of the things that were included in that don't meet our needs, for lack of a better word, within that quote. He has a lot more detail, and I appreciate that. I've gone over a lot more detail in there than that. I won't read through that all to bore everyone, but that is his recommendation, is to go with the Trafera quote as presented.
This is just the middle school.
Correct. Yep.
How many books is
We did the elementary
220, I think.
yes, it's sorry, did you ask how many?
Yeah.
220 units. It's a little more than we have students, but we always need a few extras, or if people move in,
Yeah,
that we
no.
have them on hand and stuff. Yep.
Do the old ones have any value?
They're in pretty rough shape.
I mean, what do you honestly do with them?
He'll use some of them, well, some of them are there. He'll use some of them as loaners and backups. And then we've had in the past, someone bought some of them from us out of I think it was the elementary lot, or is it the high school lot? So it just depends.
Gotcha.
He won't deal with that probably till we get the new ones in, then figure out what to do.
But there is a salvage value, I guess, right?
Depending on the year.
Not much.
Yeah, sometimes there's not much, sometimes there is a little value, so it just depends.
Just curious.
Yeah. Any other questions I can answer? Okay.
Make a motion to approve the purchase of the Chromebooks, computer cases, and computer licenses for the MS from Trifera, as presented for a total cost of $112,860.
Any second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of Chromebooks, computer cases, and computer licenses for the Emmett Middle School from Trifera for a total cost of $112,860. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
So approval of our district insurance for next year. We have Don Butler and Tom Wietzma with FNIC who will be doing that per our insurance rotation. So they are both here, so I would invite them to come on up.
Thank you. Can we sit?
Yes.
Good. Okay.
The principals they can leave, so go ahead.
We did paper also.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us join you today, this evening. I'm Dawn Butler. I think I know most of you.
Tom? Sure you do.
So you'll find in your folder the same proposal that you should have on your agenda documents. We are with FNIC, formerly Sibley Insurance and Heritage Financial Services. We've been in Sibley since 1952. I've been with the agency for 39 years, and Tom's been in insurance for
26 plus.
so. Hopefully that will give you some relief in knowing that we handle a lot of insurance coverage, whether it's large policies like the school district to home and auto and Medicare coverages as well. So FNIC is part of the First National Bank of Omaha family. Again, we've been here since 1952. Our ownership allows us to be part of an agency that is roughly an $80 million revenue agency. We have a little over 300 employees over a 5-state region, but Tom and I were born and raised in Sibley and have always been working here. So,
Always, but yes.
well, working with our home community, we care a lot about the school district and the people in town here. And so on the left-hand side of your folder is an item that is not on your agenda. It just shows we have a trademark process that we use for commercial policies. It's called Circle Path. And so we can bring to the table some additional resources that maybe other agencies do not have access to. And I won't go through every single segment, but between starting with analyzing and aligning our process and what we offer with your insurance needs, managing your coverage throughout the year and maximizing your benefits, prevention and protect, advocate and advise, and then forecast and fine-tune it for the future. So one of the nice things that is available with FNIC is we have our own internal claims department and we have our own internal loss control folks. So you have EMC, and EMC is a great company and they have a great school program, but they're also the insurance company. And so there's always that feeling of the customer having to do what the insurance company says or advises. But we have our own claims folks, we have our own loss control folks that are here for you guys. So Aaron Mathis is one of the loss control employees that we work with in our Omaha office that comes up frequently. I would recommend, if you would like to take advantages of his services, he can go through the school. If you have things that you want advice on, or what can we do better on, or how can we make things safer. If you're looking at anything, he can help you with that. And it's advice for you, and to kind of bridge that gap with OSHA expertise or even, bus driver safety, those types of things. So we have resources available to you, is my point, and we can help you with any of those things, and that's free of charge. It's part of what you have by insuring with FNIC. So feel free to. There's no dumb insurance question. Always ask, and we have help available to you as well. So, go ahead. I don't want to hog the whole conversation.
that's Well, let's get right over to page 7 now. Page 7, we'll start with all the locations and all the property at each location. There's really no, I don't want to break down every particular piece of property, but as you can see, each one of them got listed, and it goes through everything, and it ends at the high school, middle school. And on page 9, it gives you a total replacement cost value for that property at $60,470,436. So total personal property within that is in addition to that is $6,615,038, and then the total property out in the open, a little over $2 million. So again, those pages 7 and 8, listing all the 6 locations we have with all the property, brick and mortar that we have everywhere on all locations for the school.
So what is nice about that total of 69.2 million limit is it's blanketed. So you do not have to worry about, okay, maybe we didn't quite have enough coverage on the elementary school, but we have coverage totaling 69.2 million for all property as a whole. You can pull from that limit if you have a loss at any one location, and you do not have to worry about being underinsured in that point. So when you see under the valuation column in the center of page 9, you see replacement cost coverage. So it's coverage to replace with new for items that are damaged, and it's agreed value. So they're agreeing up front that we're not going to argue about if you had enough coverage at claim time. We're all agreeing that 69.2 million is where we need to be for renewal, and therefore they will pay your loss at replacement cost.
The following pages there after page 9, you go through page 10 through, it breaks down each and every one of those pieces of property, and you'll note that there's a number there, and some of those particular items that have a line through them that's crossed out, those are the increases that have occurred for the inflation adjustment that's been made for those particular buildings. So previously, for the last year, that's the old number from the previous policy. The new one going forward with the adjustments been made is the one underneath it.
Your policy currently has a $5,000 deductible per claim. However, if there is a wind or hail claim, your policy has a 1% deductible. So when you think about 1%, well, 1% of what? It's actually 1% of your coverage limit. So it's a pretty darn high deductible when you're thinking about having a wind or hail claim, because if you have several buildings damaged, and just say this, this building alone, if you have several $1 million of coverage at 1% deductible, you're on the hook for quite a bit. So the school currently has a 2080 agreement with several other districts, and I can tell you who those are, to share that 1% and buy it down to your $5,000 deductible. It looks like you share that 2080 agreement with West Des Moines, Boone Community School, Waverly, Shell Rock, Fort Dodge, Sibley Ocheyedan, Grinnell Newburgh, and Mid Prairie Community School District.
I think we're the ones that are on the board,
Nice. So, it is,
because it's like 200 some schools that are on it, so I think
okay.
those are
the board members.
Those are the
founding
board
member-
members, yes.
Founding members, school
Yep.
districts.
Yep.
Perfect. So that helps tremendously because obviously there's a fund and you're helping to pay their deductible in that situation and they're gonna help pay yours. But if you can do that as opposed to insurance, it's a great way to do it, so. And we won't go through every building. We have done that early on with Kendra and Stan, but please look it over.
By all means, if you have any questions, please ask.
Yes, because we can address that limit at any time. It does not need to happen at renewal on July 1st. The policy does include a little bit on page 19. You will see a little bit of flood coverage. Flood and earthquake are separate coverages that you need to purchase separate in addition to property casualty. We have $150,000 of coverage for flood. So if that's ever a concern, let us know. We can always quote flood coverage in addition to that.
Thank God we're not Rock Valley.
True.
What was the school that just had the water main break though?
So a
Kings
water main break
Pearson.
is not considered flood.
Yes.
Okay.
That is a covered peril.
That
It's
is
strictly
covered peril.
groundwater
SKP,
flood.
yep.
Wow.
That was devastating,
Mhm.
by the way.
I was gonna say, I don't think 150 covered that.
No. Property in transit is $500,000 of coverage. You have a lot of band equipment and sporting folks going places. But again, if you have any questions at all, we want to give you a high level overview and not put you to sleep with insurance today. So,
Equipment, floater, and then you've got just a listed equipment. It's like the skid loader and mower and those types of equipment. There's not a lot there, and I think that's changed from a year ago where that skid loader was leased. It's now owned.
and you do have a $500 deductible on those items as opposed to the $5,000. So,
Yeah. GL.
general liability limit is $2 million per claim on your base general liability policy. General liability is negligence-based coverage. So if the school is deemed negligent in any situation, you would have your $2 million per claim. The most that this general liability would pay would be two $2 million claims in a year or $4 million. This policy does include employee benefits liability, so if there would be someone who should have been added to a health plan or life plan for the school employee, and maybe that didn't happen and they had an issue, this would cover that situation as well. There is a $1,000 deductible per claim and up to $2 million benefits. One nice thing about the general liability this year, you will see additional interest listed on page 25. However, we do not specifically need to list every organization for them to be covered under the general liability.
They're automatically included.
Now, if we want them to be included under the directors and officers and the umbrella, we still need to list them, but you're not having to pay this year for each additional interest, which is nice. Business auto is next.
Yeah, we've got, excuse me, losing my voice. All the drivers there, Kendra and I and Dawn, along with Amos, have gone through them. We're still kind of working on that a little bit and visiting with Amos too, but for all intents and purposes, this is a pretty updated and accurate listing of all your drivers, the vehicles, and the coverage levels for those vehicles. We had some changes there on page 30. There's some changes. You'll see some things that we've just changed out. And we got rid of the 3 leased buses. We kept one of them. And then we've got the new four new leased buses that are already cost included on the policy. There was a question on, you've got that handy?
Yep, there are a couple of vehicles that were still on the policy. we're on our list, but we're not on the policy. And we can, I think one was a Mercury Sable and one was an 05 Venture, and you had gotten rid of those. And we talked about that. So I think we'll just have you guys review the list of vehicles once we get that back with the new buses on, just to confirm that everything is correct, so.
Which is why I was kind of visiting with Amos about that too, so.
The business auto policy does have, you'll see back on page 26 in the center, you'll see auto symbol 1, and you have a $2 million limit. Symbol 1 is any auto. So whether you're driving your own auto for a school board event and you cause an accident, someone else tries to sue the school because of that, it's any auto. As long as the definition of that unit is an auto. The school has coverage up to the 2 million, and then your umbrella limits after that, so. Comp and collision, you'll see on each vehicle list as we go through the schedule, those that have full coverage, and there's only a couple that do not. And it's a mower trailer. The Mercury Sable is no longer here. And
There's
there
one
is
bus.
a 98 Thomas school bus. Again, we just want to make darn sure that that list is correct of the units when changing offices. So, the John Deere Gator is on the vehicle schedule now. It's no longer on the Inland Marine schedule. You have full coverage on it with 1,000 deductible, like all of the other autos.
And that is a change.
Right, from last
'Cause,
year.
yeah, the changes for a lot of the ATVs / side-by-side vehicles. The insurance industry's gone away from allowing them to be included on
Like with a
an
mower.
inventory. They must be listed on something that would be included for a vehicle, because the propensity and high
Going down
claims
the road.
issues with those types of vehicles.
Workers' compensation is on page 33. The school has a $1 million limit of coverage, but only for employers' liability. So if someone's hurt at the school, an employee is hurt, and they have $2 million in medical bills and they can never work again, there is no limit on workers' compensation. It will pay as long as it needs to. The only time there is a limit is if that person they want to sue the school for gross negligence because they believe the school was negligent and that's why they were injured. This is where that settlement would come in as a maximum of $1 million. Now, you do have umbrella coverage above that as well. But,
Somebody who's injured, the benefit does not stop at $1 million.
correct. Your mod factor, which is your experience, anything below a 1.0, you're getting a credit for. Anything above that, you pay extra premium, and that's on page 34. So your experience or merit modification is 0.92,
Which is good.
which is really good. Last year it was a 0.93. So your experience, and they look at a 3-year period. So the most recent period they don't look at back, but then the 3 years prior to that they look back. So it's really a good experience mod, and it's reflected in the rates. Commercial umbrella is on page 35. That is an Employers Mutual or EMC umbrella. So you have your $2 million general liability. You have an additional $3 million with Employers Mutual above the $2 million of general liability. And then we'll look at additional limits that you have further back. So crime is included if you have some employee dishonesty or theft of money and securities, some computer fraud is on page 37. That's built into your policy as well. Directors and officers is on page 38. That would be insurance for you guys for the decisions that you make if you're sued because of that. You have the $2 million limit. Again, the umbrella sits above that. You do have a $2,500 deductible per claim for the directors and officers. Yeah, and it includes your employees, so not just the board, but if your employees as well, if the school is sued because of that. Employment practices liability is on page 40, and that would be failure to hire someone and they sue, or they claim that they were harassed either by a fellow employee or a third party, or they're fired and they don't agree with that and they sue. So you do have a $2 million limit, again a $2,500 deductible in that situation. Page 41 is your breakdown coverage. You see the list of items on here, but that's not all inclusive. Kindred works directly with the carrier every year on that. And so there were a couple of changes this year which will make the renewal premium more expensive. We added, the laptops are up from 760 to 1,042. Added 48 tablets. We had 0 the prior year and went to 48. Deleted was the Colpack walk-in freezer, and also the student enrollment decreased from 679 total to 643, so that affects your rate as well. And then we added the Fridge Tech walk-in freezer, the Market Forge electric kettle, and Crown steamer. And then the bigger impact to the premium would be the environmental controls coverage with correction maintenance inspections for the elementary site. So
Whereas a year ago, it was under the warranty. This year's going to have it back in.
So this year it's on your breakdown policy. If you keep going to your excess umbrella, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, you got the excess umbrella. You have your EMC umbrella, which brings our total coverage with our GL up to $5 million. And this is in addition to that. The EMC will not offer it, so we go to an outside carrier and source for this, and that's Old Republic for an additional $10 million umbrella over top of everything else. So in total, we have $15 million
Yeah.
with their GL and the 2 umbrellas. Total of $15 million worth of coverage.
Page 44 is cyber liability, and you can see on page 45 the limits. Depending on what happens, for most things that could happen, you have a $3 million limit. There are some other additional built-in coverages that are $250,000, and then there's a betterment coverage of $100,000. And the deductible does vary depending on what happens too. One of the big things that we've seen a lot happen is social engineering, and then also funds transfer fraud. I think I told you guys, yeah, we had a gentleman transferred via wire $300,000 to pay for materials that he thought he was purchasing, but somebody intercepted that email and gave him wrong numbers, and his money went to, I think, Singapore. Never got it back. So now he's borrowing money to run his business because he didn't purchase that type of coverage. So, but I think the school has really good policies in place and double checking before wiring money and those types of things. So I think that's why you have not seen issues. And I guess we all know about the situation with the school's software system in Iowa, that you guys are not on the same software platform that was hacked. So, but that would be a situation where you would be able to turn in a claim under your cyber liability for assistance. And they not only pay, but they assist you as well.
As a
So,
recovery.
yep. Okay, pollution is on page 47, and you have a $500,000 limit. Two $500,000 claims per year, which would be that aggregate of $1 million with a $250 deductible. This would be pollution coverage for the school, in addition to there's only a very little amount that normal property and casualty coverage provides. So this is your additional pollution limit provided by EMC.
Usually one of the things they take away and you gotta add it back in.
Yep, so you have that as well. The meat and potatoes page is on 49, which you've all been waiting for and probably have reviewed. Two things notably that you'll see everything else is quite flat for the year, except for property, because the limit has to continue to increase with inflation to keep up with that 100% replacement cost, so we can give you agreed value blanket coverage. So between the rates increasing across the state and across the Midwest over the last 4 years, specifically due to heavy claims in storm damage, and then your values, I would say half of that difference is going to be increase in coverage, the other half is going to be rate.
Equipment breakdown is the other area that had quite a sizable increase due to the fact that we're adding back the elementary school on the equipment breakdown.
There have been a couple of other equipment.
Yeah, and the kitchen items from 2 years ago, because this past year they had the warranty.
Okay, sure, that would,
We bought it 2 years ago. That was a big chunk of it too.
Yes, because I see
That steamer
steamer,
and a kettle
walk-in
and the walk-in freezer. Yep.
And then, yeah, the tablets are, I think, pretty minor compared to the
That's the
equipment.
biggest reason.
Yep.
Yes.
So that is ultimately the difference.
Yeah, but without those two agenda items, they're, reasonably flat across the board.
Correct. But the value of that a breakdown policy for adding the schools, the elementary school, is huge, because to have to pay those bills if something does break down, as opposed to having that immediate coverage, is good. We've done all the talking. Do you have any questions? No one's asleep yet, so that's pretty good usually.
I guess. Is there any savings on deductible changes, and is there anything that can be done on that?
So with the roof, though, if you remember going back what Don was referencing earlier here, with the roof, they don't go deductible anymore, it's a percentage. So
Yep.
What she was referencing is I've talked about a few times, the SPFs, the Storm Protection Fund, that's the 2080 agreement, which has, out of the 324 districts in the state, I think they're up to like 280, not quite
That's
sure,
huge.
that are taking part in that.
Yep.
And so the schools she mentioned have someone, whether it's an SBO or superintendent, on the board for that. And so that's the whole reason that formed, is to mitigate costs, to keep those down.
Over the course of the last 5 to 6 years, you saw that deductible at that 25,000 range, and then it went all the way to 50,000, and then it got crazy, and they threw in the percentage deductibles. That's when you saw the agreement started with the school districts saying, what can we do to manage this issue? And that percentage deductible is a big deal. We don't just see it on a commercial level but we see it on an individual level with, home and farm and everything else. Unfortunately, it's probably something that's here to stay. But so to answer your question, being a part of that agreement already mitigates that. Now, the other deductibles, as far as the new buses we added, you see that we have a $2,000 deductible. Now, everything else is right at $1,000. It really doesn't change the premium a whole lot by going to anything greater than that. I mean, it's minimal at best.
And I think part of the EMC program, at least on the vehicles, is that's where they structure the program. On the property, we can go back and certainly see if you went from a $5,000 deductible to a $25,000, if that can save you enough to make sense, or 10 or 15, we can look at those, because the school has a history of not turning in claims. So if you do have a claim, can we sustain 15 or 25,000 per claim as opposed to the 5 that outside of the wind and hail? So obviously I'm talking about a fire, a theft, a vandalism, those types of claims, water damage. And we can certainly look at that if you guys want us to get numbers on, because that property premium is where, outside of the breakdown policy, the property premium is where you're seeing that increase this year. So we can certainly see if there's an option to save enough to make sense, if if you'd like.
Because, yeah, you know, that's a very good question, because really, when, in the grand scheme of things, when you're looking at the amount of property and money at risk, $5,000 isn't a lot, you know, to be honest, because you'll see a lot of farm operations that'll have a $10,000 or $25,000 deductible, especially when you're looking at a confinement situation where you got $500,000 to $1.5 million at risk. You know, 25,000 is pretty common deductible anymore.
Yeah.
And some of the carriers won't let you insure something like that without a $10,000 deductible.
Right.
But what's it mean for us in premium? You know,
Certainly see if
we
that
can
can
certainly
match.
find that answer.
The other.
Would that be a question for you guys too? Like, is 5,000 to 25,000?
Yeah, it just depends
Doable.
what.
From a budgetary standpoint, you're
Yeah,
going to know
right.
what you can afford
Right.
to take on for a risk.
We can certainly check what options
That was the only question I
are
had.
available. The other item that is an optional quote is if right now you have the total liability with your umbrellas of 15 million. You can purchase an additional 5 million. So it's an excess 5 for $4,553 a year, which would give you, instead of the 15 million, you'd have 20 million in liability coverage. So that's something to consider. One of the items that they would like to know sooner than later is your commitment to continue to renew the 10 million that you have already, so they can prepare that renewal. So I don't know if you need to vote on that or if you are going to keep that the same. But that is one of the things I just need to confirm with them. And then if you are interested in purchasing an additional 5, that's the $4,553. So
Page 51.
So we can look into the thing, but basically what our recommendation, when I say our, Kendra and I for the school's recommendation, we're looking at the next agenda item would be the breakdown insurance. So we're looking at the property and the umbrella policies separate from breakdown. Does that make sense? If you pull that out of there. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we're recommending basically renewing that, what Dawn was referring to, the umbrella and everything else without the additional 5 million that she just referenced. I'm trying to summarize that simply.
And keep the 10 million.
Yeah, and keep the 10 million, correct. Correct.
So I think the motion can just say to approve the district policy with the 10 million excess liability.
Does that kind of answer that and for you and everyone? I don't want to not answer the question.
yes.
And the reason that breakdown was a little higher was because of what again at the elementary?
And I can share my.
I don't see it on here, I
It's on,
guess.
it's on the next agenda item.
You have, okay, you have an agenda item. There's a
Oh.
printout copy of the additions and deletions. Is that what you're referring to too, Ken?
Yeah, because didn't we have some of these things where I can't remember that company out of Sioux Falls that did have.
Yes. You're thinking of the right
Climate
There you go. Yeah.
climate and
for each.
yep, they do some things out of that, and like we use that right now for, we do all of our, through our breakdown insurance, all of our like copier maintenance and the toner for them. So like we don't even pay for the toner, the maintenance, it gets submitted to
Okay.
breakdown insurance right away. As an example, part of the reason the premium went up is we didn't have to have the elementary on the last year because it was under warranty and finishing workmanship. And then from 2 years ago, we brought those items in the kitchen, and they're considered high. I can't remember what Nathan said, from high,
High risk or.
yeah, not risk of getting hurt, but of
Breakdown.
high risk of breakdown.
No.
There's a term he used, so they were fairly expensive. And then from the windstorm/tornado last summer that did damage to the walkout freezer, we got rid of that and then have the new freezer, but it's a new freezer with a little more value. So that was one of those are the big three, if I remember right. And then just in general, because we use the policy, which they say is good, but when you use it, it makes your premium go up. Okay, 22.
But I would definitely use it.
Yeah, I'm not saying to not use, I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
Access and environmental controls coverage with correction, maintenance inspections.
Right.
So that's different than what we pay for out of that. For those, what'd you call it, climate thing?
Yes. The climate, that's the maintenance contract specifically, I think is
Okay.
what with climate, when they come and do like the
That,
The
so our
filters and all
annual
of that?
maintenance agreement is actually paid through equipment breakdown.
Okay.
we pay for it through that, right?
But it's
you're
added-
talking about the maintenance agreement, right?
Yeah, the annual premium or the annual bill for that is.
So we're
paid
not
through-
double covered, I guess, is what I was asking.
No, it's the
Remember?
same thing. It's just paid through this.
Okay.
It's added dollar for dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
Can't not have it.
Yeah, from the property side of things, not that I'm excited about 18 increase if you throw out the breakdown, but compared to some of our recent years' increase in property insurance, this
This
is,
is light compared to
yeah,
what we've seen.
in some of the last few years.
Yeah, unfortunately, this, and you do have a lot of value that you're working with, so, you know, if you, look at that increase divided by the $69 million of limit, it seems like a lot, but it really is not based on the limit of coverage, that amount of property that we're insuring.
And we've been pretty fortunate here, but you don't have to go very far south and east. That derecho, a number of derechos, you know, had cut such a large swath that, and we're still suffering from that. We haven't seen it. We haven't seen it here,
Let's
thank
keep
God.
it that way.
It was horrible.
We do have both of our cards in your folder, and our mobile numbers are on that as well. So if you have questions, just feel free to give us a call anytime. And
We can investigate the deductibles and let you guys know what a
savings.
10 and a 25 and $1,000 deductible level would be. I don't think that's a bad idea.
So we could approve as is for now, and then if we
Yeah.
decide, we'll bring that up to you
Always make
later.
changes.
Yep, always make changes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So this would be to approve the renewing the insurance policy for like the property and everything else that Dawn and Tom just mentioned, sans or without the equipment breakdown.
And then this one, is this where we need to mention the 10 million?
Yeah, if you just want to approve it with the 10 million
With the
excess
10 million,
liability
yep.
policy.
Make a motion to approve the EMC district insurance policy renewal as presented with the 10 million excess liability policy.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the district insurance policy renewal as presented with additional 10 million
Liability.
liability. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the equipment breakdown. So if you look on their package, they said overall the increase was 76,000, but 49 of that was due to equipment, equipment breakdown. So really the property went up, we're talking like 27,000 in the grand scheme of things. So the equipment breakdown policy, we are hoping the increase, they have a couple of attachments on there. We're hoping the increase in this will slow down in future years because this was a big increase this year. And in talking through that, in keeping some of our loaner laptops, but that's not a huge part of the increase. The biggest reasons were in talking through that was the walk-in freezer and just the change in value with that for the new one. Some of the, the environmental controls, basically what they're getting at is the controls and things that fall under coverage at the elementary site, because in the past year that was on warranty, and then that kettle and steamer that was bought 2 years ago in the kitchen, but that was under warranty last year, so we didn't have that on our breakdown equipment insurance for this past year. And they're adding that on there now. And then just the normal renewal adjustment there at the top was $9,800. Adding those together, that's where you get an increase of just under 50 grand on this. yes, we've had conversations about, is this, just as a reminder, we've had conversation about continuing this. This is paid out of management, right? Insurances, so including breakdown insurance. A lot of the things that this covers and pays for, if the management fund didn't cover that, would come back into the general fund. So, yes, paying for the agreement, like the service agreement with Climate for some of the HVAC work they do. Pretty much all of our work that we do on copiers and printers. I'm bringing those up because that's what they bring up, that we have a high usage rate on that, and they mean that in a good way, that not all schools take advantage of that. Like now we bill that directly to Marco, so anytime we need more toner, that gets paid out of the equipment breakdown insurance, or anytime they come to work on the copiers. Any other type of certain fixtures, if it's over a dollar amount, we can turn that in and get reimbursed on that on certain types of repairs. That's what equipment breakdown insurance covers. We try to do a good job and take advantage of that and turn in everything that we can, which is a good thing. But that also contributes to the renewal adjustment rate going up, is because we take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Is it pencil?
So,
It's questionable.
okay. I think it does right now, but
It did up through this year, this large increase, I don't know.
Might have to look at it again.
correct.
Just be paying some of that.
Right. If a year from now it's another
Yeah.
$49,000 increase, that's a 100% increase over 2 years, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So my recommendation would be to approve this for this coming year, and I think that's something we're gonna have to look at,
Going
Kendra and
forward.
I, to make the recommendation a year from now.
Okay. Make a motion to approve the equipment breakdown insurance renewal as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the equipment breakdown insurance renewal as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay. Sorry, go on, Jamie.
Okay, all right. Consider approval of energy rebate contract and fees.
So for those of you that weren't on the board at the time, going back to when we set this up, when this was all done, they had talked about, even though as an entity, Sibley Ocheyedan, because we're a public, we don't pay taxes, right? We're a nonprofit. By law, those that are for-profit or individuals, when you put geothermal in, you can qualify for a tax rebate, okay? Under the rules and stipulations of this programs, even though we don't pay taxes, we can qualify for a tax rebate. That was one of the reasons they recommended doing that among other efficiencies, was to do this, but it had to be when the project was done or completed after what's called a third-party commissioning. So I kind of had kept my ear open to that as they were wrapping that up. I asked, so they lined that up. So I tried to put as much information into this as I could, literally copied the email description that they sent us on this in the information for agenda item G, that they talk about that. So literally the information they sent us on that. We did have a Zoom with them, with someone from Eide Bailey, which is an accounting firm. So the information that they need, they might get from SiteLogic, but SiteLogic lines us up with this person. This is what they've used in other projects through Eide Bailey. They went through a description on what's all needed. I am going to fully admit I am not an expert on this by any means, new to this game, just knew that we could qualify for this. Okay, in the middle part, I'm not going to read the description word for word here, but do you see where it says see image below? There was an attachment in the email that was attached, so I just made it attached on as the agenda item. But basically, as they go into this, we have the potential to get back anywhere from that $300,000 range to over $600,000 to approaching $700,000 after it's all said and done. So some significant returns on that we could use for some other, whether at that point we'll decide, is that gonna pay down the bond, or are we using that to pay off some other infrastructure? That's a question down the road, right? But there are some significant savings and tax credits we can get back to do that, but it takes some paperwork to do that. So this agenda item that we have here is to approve the fees for Eide Bailey to do this. Is it potentially steep? Yes, it is, but I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Tell you that straight up.
So where would this come
This
out
was
of?
recommended.
Yeah, the 65,000, is there a fund?
Yeah, it could be up to that. It'll be for sure, as she explained to me in the Zoom, a minimum of 45, depending on how much of that other stuff, it could be up to
Oh, okay.
65. And then it'll be for sure the 45 grand, could be
Oh.
up to 65 is my understanding of this. Because the domestic content, they don't know, like, I'm gonna explain this poorly, but what percentage of the piping and the materials and the stuff that went in will qualify? Like, it depends where it came from, and
Yeah, I think that's kind of changed, and the last Trump has put some of that stuff into place, I believe.
that's what this is referring to, and they have to look at the plans and where we bought, that's what they all look into and figure out, right? So, I kind of rambled there, and I don't know that I just answered your question.
We
What
can
did you
pay-
ask, Jamie?
We can pay the fee out of probably saved with the
Saved.
remaining saved.
Oh, you asked where we're gonna pay
Yeah,
this from,
right.
okay, yeah.
Because there's money left from the project.
The project
A
itself.
little bit, yeah.
Okay.
And then that can go back into save, right?
Mhm.
Well,
We could put it back in, or Pepple. I guess at that point, when it comes back in, we can look.
Where you
At that
want to
point,
put
I mean,
it.
I'm not trying to pass over that, but I'm not worried about it. When it comes in, we'll have the discussion of where we want to put it or what we want to do with it. We got to get to that point first.
auditors too, for some-
This is for us to approve the fees and to move forward, and then they'll process the paperwork for us. If I remember right from the Zoom meeting we had with them, she said we're in a good time frame with them to get to work, and then they were hoping that they could have this all filed and turned in by the end of this calendar year, because it kind of follows what a tax return year would be, even though we don't, as a school, file a tax return. This is where, but we can qualify for this tax rebate, so they were hoping to have it done by the end of December. If I remember right, isn't that what she said?
And it would come as
And it
cash.
come, that's my understanding. Yep.
We were hoping it would come by the end of this coming fiscal year, by
Yes.
next year.
Yeah, so then sometime after Christmas, like next spring, that we would get that in theory, hopefully. Don't know that, but that'd be the idea.
And of the ones that Site Logic has done, what's their thought on that we would qualify? I mean, what's our chances that we don't qualify and we?
Yeah, we asked that.
I asked that exact question, because I said, if we pay this, what's the likelihood that we pay this and then we don't qualify? I think that's what you're asking,
Right.
right? I asked that same question because I was hoping one of you guys would, or if you'd ask, because I don't know the answer to that. And she didn't give me a percentage, but her answer in the email was she viewed this as extremely likely, considering that if there'd be any changes in legislation apply to a future year, not this year, and we're applying it for this year. And based on the information she had, she didn't see a reason why we would not qualify or be able to get something back. That's not verbatim of what they said, but if I put sharing off, I can find the email.
And what the only what is the administrative and technology fee of 5%? Is that to the amount that we get back? They get an additional 5%?
Sorry, I'm looking this up here to answer.
Sorry, I jumped ahead.
I found it. Do you want me to read it?
Would you beat me to it?
It's on June 9.
June 9. Go ahead and read it, Kendra. I'm still scrolling to find it here.
Thank you for your question and for sharing your concerns. With current legislation supporting geothermal systems through 2032, the risk of not receiving the rebate is highly unlikely. That was their wording of it. Arthur, where were you looking that it was?
So just under that, that 45-20,000, there's that paragraph that says, out of pocket expenses such as travel time, mileage, lodging, meals, and administrative and technology fees of 5% will also apply. 5% of what?
Don't know. Can't answer that.
Yeah, I don't know. That one. I know she put that at the end, and she said they put that if there's.
Spells it out. That's hard to just.
Yeah, if there's addition, like, she explained, like, if we got questioned or we had to, if we had to meet with the IRS in and above of what is on here to get more money, or we had a credit or something like a credit that we didn't think was right, and we had a meeting with the IRS, that would be an additional fee, and I think that's what that, any additional items beyond what they would normally do in their scope of work, that's what that paragraph was covering, was my understanding. What that 5% fee means, I don't know.
Okay.
We can ask.
Yep.
I guess I was just curious, like, say we're thinking
5% of what?
65, yeah, and then you say you get a $700,000 rebate,
5% of that.
and they get 5% additional. I don't know. And maybe I'm reading it wrong too.
I don't think they plan to actually travel here much. They'll use SiteLogic to.
My understanding
Answer
was
their question.
those things were if like something beyond their anticipated scope of work, or they had to do something beyond what they were planning, that's what the additional fees would come. They're not planning on that, but the quoted fees are determining the amount of work, because I think I asked this on the Zoom, and calculating, documenting, and filing for the credit, period. In addition, actual out-of-pocket expenses such as travel, mileage, lodging, meals, administrative and technology fee will also apply, like if we have additional work that's required beyond what they're quoting. That was my understanding.
Okay.
I think that's right, but that's my understanding.
My guess is that it would potentially be 5% of their fee. Do you think? I mean, I don't know that. That's my assumption.
That could be what they charge us in the administratively, and 5% of their overall fee.
And you're hoping potentially you would have it by the end of the year?
They would have the paperwork done at the end of the year. The filing done by the end of the year.
End of 2026.
Yep. And then when, did they have any anticipation when you would?
I think ideally then hopefully we could get the money next spring.
Next spring? Okay.
That was my understanding. Any other questions?
I have. Make a motion to approve the quoted fees and to approve the ID Bailey and representing Sibley Cheatham receiving the geothermal energy tax credits.
Second.
All right, it's been moved. Excuse me, and seconded to approve I. Bailey's proposal of the energy rebate and contract fees as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of public records. Custodians.
Yep, this needs to be approved annually. Currently that falls in the jurisdiction of Kendra and myself, and we recommend doing that, but make the motion to read that school business official and superintendent to continue in those roles without the actual names, serve those positions.
Make a motion that the school school business official and superintendent continue to serve as the custodians of the public records. Motion.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the school business official and superintendent to continue to serve as custodians of the public records. All those, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consider approval of 2026-27 teacher work rules, business procedures handbook, faculty handbook, support staff handbook, special education associate handbook, and the coaches directors handbook.
There are not any big substantial changes like we've had maybe in periodic books the last few years. The biggest ones that I'll summarize in some of them is just based on talking with the school nurse and other entities, is a section on Sensi pots and prohibiting those uses just for those that are sensitive to that. You know what I mean by Sensi pots, right? And anything else that falls under that. And then adding, what's that?
Jamie.
I don't know what a Sensi pot is now.
It's this wax melt thing.
Yeah.
that
Oh.
smell.
You put it's like a pot they heat up and then you can put different
Okay.
fragrances. But instead of burning it like in a candle, there's no wick in it, so you're not lighting a flame. I guess that'd be the easiest way to say it, right? Yeah. So prohibiting the use of those type of items, and then in the support staff handbook, we updated the dress code because it didn't really match the professional dress code in like some of our other handbooks that we didn't catch, and just so like you're not wearing inappropriate things during the workday. Those were the two biggest changes.
Make motion to approve the handbooks for the upcoming year as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the 2026-27 handbooks as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consider approval of contract with Northwest AEA for a service delivery agreement.
So just with the new model and legislation that occurred over a year ago, we're into year 2. We have to have a service plan model with them. So these are the base services that we're subscribing to. Not all schools are. We're choosing to. We feel that we get enough value. We are still eligible if we want them to come for math support or reading support. On those days, we don't have to have that contracted ahead of time. We can have them come. That is still a fee for service model that we pay per diem rate. But this is some of the base things that we get with some of the resources through AEA Learning Online and some of their other library services that we get. That totals $8,800, a little over $8,800.
Make a motion to approve the service delivery agreement with the Northwest AEA and General Education and Media Services.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the contract with the Northwest AEA for the service delivery agreement as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
So the next one, due to an opening in a Northwest AEA board member, and it's the board member that covers our district, okay? And it's before the end of the term, they need to elect someone to fill that term and get nominations. They're struggling to get nominations right now, but to do so, they have to have a convention where all the board members from the different districts in that region go to attend. What we can do with this resolution is I can represent you as board members at that meeting, unless you really desire to go on your own to City on a night. And I have the attachment brought up, it's a simple resolution, and then we have to do a roll call vote. And then what would happen is if we find someone to be a nominee that would like to fulfill the rest of that term, if there's more than one, great, we'll vote. If there's just one person, we'll nominate and vote on them. And then our vote is weighted based on our enrollment compared to the other schools within our region. So if I remember right, we have our weighting's at about like 9.8% or something like that, right? And there's some other schools, I think it's us, Sioux Center, Central Lyon, Boyden Hall, that's in our region that this seat represents. So that was due to the untimely passing of Amy Jurens, and they're looking to fill that seat. That's what this is about. So the resolution is you're saying, you're giving me as superintendent, we could make it anyone, but then when they have the hearing for this, that I can attend and vote on behalf of the district rather than having the 5 of you go to vote. Does that make sense?
Yep. So what,
It's really, you have to start at the Board of Education down there, adopted a resolution,
okay.
or, I guess,
What'd you say?
what should they read?
Okay, so it says if the Board of Education determines that the majority of the board will be unable to attend or they want to elect someone, this is what it's describing. So what you'd fill out, when we're fill out, it'd say, I, Jeannie Aaron, President of the Sibley-Cheatham Board of Education, certify that on this date. The Board of Education adopted a resolution appointing Stan DeZale as delegate, and we don't have an alternative delegate. We'll just have myself do that with the full authority to cast our weighted elector votes for the district at the elector district convention number 1 of the Northwest AEA on June 22, 2026.
Okay. So who is eligible to be a director
Anyone-
in a district? Is any school board member or?
Yep, anyone in the district who is not on a board at a school district, right?
Not on staff.
Or not on staff at a school district, is that what it is?
Because she
to
was
be a
on
board
George
member.
Laura
You have to be-
school board, right?
What? You don't have to be a board member to be
Oh,
on
you
it. It can
don't?
be anyone
Oh,
that's
okay.
interested, yes.
Oh.
Because she was no longer on the GLR school
You're
board, I don't
right.
believe.
No, you're right. She wasn't.
Wasn't it that they couldn't be on staff?
I think that they couldn't be employed by the school though, right? They couldn't be a school employee. Yes, I
I
think
thought you
you're
had to
right.
be on the board.
Nope, you do not. I think you can't be a board member actually now anymore. You can't. I don't think you can serve on both. I know, and I think you're right. They can't be an employee either,
Oh, okay.
if I remember right. So if you know anyone interested. So really, the
Okay.
resolution that you're going to say is the Sibley-Cheatham. You could.
Board of Education.
The Sibley-Cheatham Board of Education adopted a resolution appointing Stan DeZale as their delegate with the full authority to cast our weighted elector votes for the district director at the elector district convention number 1 of Northwest AEA on June 22, 2026. That's a mouthful. That's really all you have to read, and then it has to be a roll call vote.
That's the way the motion has to read.
Mm-hmm.
Make a motion that the Sibley-Cheatham Board of Education adopt a resolution appointing Stan DeZale as delegate with full authority to cast our weighted elector votes for the district director at the elector district convention number 1 of Northwest Area Education Agency on June 22nd, 2026.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve Stan DeZale as our board delegate for Director District 1 for the election of our delegate.
Okay, roll call vote. Jamie?
Yes.
Denise?
Yes.
Arthur?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Jennifer? She is there.
We do have a quorum
Mhm.
without her, so
Mhm.
I'll just mark that she did not vote.
Okay.
So motion passes.
All right, motion passes. All right, consider approval of resolution to transfer funds from general fund to activity fund for safety equipment.
So basically, the short version is this helps keep your activity fund solvent. You can take some money from your general fund and put it in activity fund when it meets specific needs and it's authorized safety equipment. And so the resolution is right below, so whoever's making the motion just reads the resolution. It's those 2 paragraphs. It wants to, again, be a roll call vote, and it states the amount in it, and the amount is $8,886.98.
Make a motion under Iowa Code provides school districts greater flexibility to transfer excess funds to other to other specified purposes. The board, in consultation with its community, has determined that the funds of $8,886.98 in the general fund shall be transferred into the student activity fund to purchase protective and safety equipment required for any extracurricular, interscholastic, athletic contest or competition that is sponsored or administered by an organization as currently defined by Iowa Code.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution to transfer funds from the general fund to activity fund for safety equipment in the amount of $8,886.98. And just, oops.
Roll call vote. Jamie?
Yes.
Denise?
Yes.
Arthur?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Can you hear us now, Jennifer? Say she didn't
Yeah.
vote. Yes, there's, perfect. Thank you.
Motion passes.
All right, motion carries. All right, consider approval of sharing agreement for soccer.
Yes, this would be the sharing agreement to continue sharing soccer with Sheldon for the next school year. They got it to us in time, so the only difference is, I think it was dated last year. It started in the middle of July by the time we got it. This agreement will go July 1, 2026 through June 30 of 2027. That doesn't really change anything. It's just that the dates are slightly different than last year just because we got it ahead of the June meeting this time. So other than that, the agreement is the
Does that have to say
same.
anything about, don't we help pay for a coach too, or is that
Yep, and that's in the agreement.
oh, it is, okay.
Yep, that's a part of the agreement. It explains that. I don't remember the specifics, but that is in the agreement. Number 11, simply the students shall pay a salary of the assistant coaches, one boy and one girl, set forth in the Sheldon pay scale.
Okay. And South O'Brien's part of it too now.
They are going to be a part of that, correct?
So it'll be split a third, and a third. Or is Sheldon South O'Brien considered one? And we're considered one.
Yeah, for equipment, Sheldon's going to do half of the cost, and then for equipment costs, and then we have a quarter, and South O'Brien has a quarter. I know that for equipment costs. That's how they're doing that. I apologize. I said it's exactly the same, and I forgot all about South O'Brien. I'm sorry. I forgot about that.
We're paying both Sibley Cheatham and South
Yes.
O'Brien are paying for
One of the
assistant
coach,
coach,
yep.
boy and girl. So there must be two assistants and one main,
Yep.
one head coach.
I think you're right now that
for
Amy,
each
I did
that
hear Amy say
Sheldon
that,
is
because
paying
point
for.
12 talks about South O'Brien paying the salary of one of the assistants for boys and girls as well.
Gotcha.
Yep, I don't know how many kids Sibley participates in that. Person's down there.
Off the top of my head, no. I have a guess, but it would be
Yeah, alright,
unofficial. But I'm pretty sure it's in the teens.
okay,
There's quite a few.
Mm-hmm.
that's good.
I mean, I'm not 50, but it wasn't just
Right.
I had in my mind a number in the teens, but I don't know that for sure. And I don't have it right in front of me.
Make a motion to approve the agreement for boys and girls soccer with Sheldon Community School District for the 2027 season.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the sharing agreement for soccer with Sheldon and South O'Brien as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I,
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consider approval of Lexia purchase.
So usually we've had 3 ancillary items to include in the last few years. We do not have to include iReady because that'll be part of our new curriculum package next year. So that's, if you're looking back, that's why we don't have that. And then modified, and some of the quotes are a little bit cheaper just based on who used that. So it's just for Lexia and IXL. So for Lexia, the quote for us for next school year is in the amount of $11,050.
I make a motion to purchase Lexia for the, is it 20, should it say 26, 27?
Yes, it should for the 20, that's a typo.
26, 27
Yep.
school year, the amount of $11,050.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve, excuse me, approve the Lexia purchase for the 26-27 school year in the amount of $11,050. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consider approval of IXL purchase.
Same thing, but it's just for IXL, the quote's attached and the totals. And it is for the 26-27 school year for $9,887.50.
Make a motion to purchase IXL for the 26-27 school year in the amount of $9,887.50.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of IXL for the 26-27 school year in the amount of $9,887.50. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, that brings us to the closed session for superintendent evaluation.
Jennifer jumped off here.
Okay.
Before we do that, does anyone, it shouldn't take super long, but want to use the
No.
restroom first, or?
Let's just get finished.
Yeah, I'm for that. That's why I said that. But to do that, we do have to make a
Make a
motion.
motion.
Yep, and then it has to be a roll call vote. Oh, and I need to, hold on.